Hey, welcome to X-Oriente, the new voice of Brotherhood.
Oh,
Uh, it's Eric,
sorry, guys.
Jason, and our special guest, Nicky Sampogna, once
Sampogna,
again.
that way.
And
What's up, you guys?
and I have to call up. So, yeah, we've been on a bit of a hiatus. Some of it's been technical stuff. Some of it's just been life. I've been traveling. Nicky's been traveling.
I was traveling.
Jason's always traveling.
Traveling man.
He's a travel. We're all traveling, man.
Lord,
I did have a
What I
great
tell people.
the TSA guy in my trip to San Francisco. He saw my Masonic ring and he's like, "Hey, I like your ring." And winked at me.
Nice.
So that's
Nice. Nice. Did he follow that up with never mind, I'm not gonna ask.
Yeah.
Here we go.
Yeah. Then he hoodwinked me and took me in another room.
Right, exactly.
Sounds like a Saturday night.
Yeah. So anyway, we're going to talk today. Welcome back, everybody, and we're going to talk today about dress codes and the reason. So way back when we were actually preparing this show, it was kind of a new thing. It was kind of news at that point. The Grand Lodge of Georgia issued an edict mandating a dress standard. And what that dress standard is that no Mason shall attend any meeting wearing shorts, an uncollared shirt, t-shirt, exercise wear, open-toe shoes, sandals, or flip-flops unless medically necessary.
The fact that there's that last part is amazing.
Well, I mean, it might be medically necessary, right? Like,
Yeah,
Sure.
totally do my socks and sandals, dude. Totally. It's medically necessary.
I got a bunion. I gotta wear open-toed shoes.
Do you ever read the book The Hot Zone?
No.
Anybody? It's actually a true story about how Ebola almost broke out in Reston, Virginia, just up the street. And yeah, and it's a true story. And one of the epidemiologists at NIH has a medical certificate that lets him wear open to like actual just sandals, because apparently he's got such a terrible form of athlete's foot that he has to have open-toed sandals at work. So he wears that with his suit.
His
It's
scrubs.
disgusting. Why is he
There you
just...
go.
All right. So,
True story.
all right. But
You're welcome.
yeah, thank you. So, but what's interesting about about this? First of all, the edict goes on to say that it doesn't require a jacket or tie, it doesn't require a tuxedo, it doesn't establish any, it's sort of a minimum threshold of how one presents themselves at lodge. And that when I read about that, it kind of opened the door to me to talk about dress codes, because we sort of have them. I mean, some places do for sure.
Mm-hmm.
And it's one of those things that seems to get a lot of attention on social media. People like to talk about it, and so I thought it'd be really great to talk about it. And Nicky, is Nicky Nicky? Can you hear me? Oh, okay, there you are. All right, yeah, you weren't moving, and like the I guess the video compression just like froze you for a sec. But and Nicky's here because for a couple of reasons. One is because of like the work that Nicky does. Is kind of interesting, and the second thing is that Nicky is one of the best dressed Masons I've ever seen. Right, so
It's the shawl collared sweater that really gets it.
I'm just saying, like as
Grandpa chic.
as fashionistas go, like if there could be a lapel pin awarded for fashionable, hair
Wait, that guy who works the fashionable mail?
hair notwithstanding, Nicky would be that person. And also because the reason we like to have Nicky on the show so much is because he's never shy about expressing his opinions, and we like that.
Lots of takes.
Yeah.
Lots of takes. Yes.
So, yeah. Very nice.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess the first question that I have to you guys is, uh, so UGLE, right,
Mm-hmm.
in London, in London, right? They have a dress code, right?
Mm-hmm.
They code it out. It's code. Black suit, black jackets with gray trousers, officially approved Grand Lodge tie. Should we have a dress code? Should there be a dress code in Masonry?
Yes. Show's over, everyone. Thank you, everyone. Thanks for coming. So, yeah. So, yeah, I mean, we absolutely should. And here's the thing is that, like, I think that to start it all off, I think that you dress for, you dress for what your intended outcome is going to be, right? You dress to impress people. You dress to, you dress up to the occasion, I guess. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And so, that all being said, Masonry should be something that you take care for, to prepare for, by dressing up, dressing nicely, presenting yourself well, and not showing up like a schlub. You know what I'm saying? I mean, there's plenty of places you can show up like a schlub. One of the articles there we'll talk about in a little bit, but the dress codes for work are dropping like flies. We went from suit and tie at work to business casual was a thing,
Mm-hmm.
and now people just go, I show up and work, do your job. I don't care what you wear to do your job, just do your job.
Mm-hmm.
Which is probably the right call, right? But for Masonry, it's a different thing. This is we're not paying you to be there. We're not getting a skill from you. You're paying us to be there.
Okay.
So you ought to be dressing up to that.
So why is that important then? If in other words, if it's and just to kind of set some context here, part of the reason that this is is a timely thing, it's not just the Grand Lodge edict. Goldman Sachs, one of the whitest of white shoe, wealth management firms, recently relaxed the dress codes to keep pace with Silicon Valley firms, right? So now, one of the last bastions of Wall Street is now gone business casual. And so the question is if we're there to work and we're there to,
different type of work.
Well, so tell me, why are dress codes important? Nicky, why is a dress code important?
For everything, or can I yell about other stuff first?
What do you want to yell about?
I don't know. Just there's a cloud up there that's really angering me.
No.
No. So why? I also don't. So I work So for my job, I wear a suit and tie to every episode of Monday Night Raw or SmackDown that we tape, or whatever. When I go to the office, I wear appropriate jeans, or I just don't look in slacks. I don't look in polo shirts, but I wear an Oxford and cardigan or whatever, or a suit jacket depending on the season, right? Or whatever, if it's hot outside or whatever. I shoot content with backstage. Tomorrow night I'll be at the Quicken Loans Arena in Cleveland. If you haven't got your tickets for Monday Night Raw, you should. And it's like, as a content creator, like, I could be wearing show blacks, right? I could be wearing black shirt, black jeans, black shoes, black cap, or whatever the case may be, so I fit in with the background or whatever the case may be. But like, you serve a dual role as you're the leader of your team, with the people with whom you may be forward facing, and that necessitates a certain level of being appropriate and looking appropriate to whom you are reporting. And so I think of even the Goldman Sachs stuff, like, man, like, if you have a bunch of 25-year-old dudes and girls running around making pitch decks and like just doing decks, like, yeah, those people are not wearing suits. But like,
right,
I think that at like their CEO and their wealth management, when they're going to meetings or they're going to like dinners and stuff like that, they're wearing suits.
Yeah,
and if it like, and even, and more to the point of Freemasonry, it's like I am actually more concerned with the idea of formality. Sorry, I have to be tight.
Yeah.
To be tight. The idea of formality as opposed to what people are actually wearing. If you have one good suit and you don't have a tuxedo, cool. Look good in your one good suit. Take the extra time to tie a proper knot and button up your shirt and shine. Like it's this. I sound like is that you, Quicken and Loan or whatever the hell it is? Is that the old Shavings and Loan, like some Jimmy Stewart stuff? Like shine your shoes and look appropriate and good. I will say this. First hot take. He's on fire. I am more offended by people wearing red and purple linen jackets because they're in the Royal Arch or the Cryptic Council than I am for someone who doesn't wear a tuxedo but a black long, four-in-hand tie to a formal occasion. I'm more offended by people who look down on others who are wearing black tie at 8 a.m. in the morning because they're grand officers and that's what grand officers do, than I am for the guy who wears a blue shirt without a tie but wears a sport coat to a third degree or whatever the case may be. You know what I mean?
But I mean, so here's the thing, right? Is that stuff, it's a uniform is really what all this stuff is. But that's what we're talking about. It's a uniform. And the whole reason that people wore suits to work in the first place is because it was a uniform. It was a way to identify yourself as a professional in an office environment. You wore your suit to signify, this is my uniform. And it also acted as an equalizer in the office, right? The CEO wears a suit and the junior associate that we just hired wears a suit. They look the same. It's a suit. What are you going to do that's super different? You know what I'm saying? And so that's one of the reasons why people do that kind of thing is it's a uniform. The whole idea of the Royal Arch stuff, like doing the red or the purple coats, that's a uniform kind of a deal. A lame one in my opinion, but nonetheless, it's an idea. I think that nowadays we care way less about that kind of stuff, especially in the workplace. People just want to roll out of bed, put on something comfortable, get to work, do their job, go home. But it's interesting because people who work on camera or are seen don't play those games. They still take the effort to look nice. I mean, even a corporate salesperson who's pulling down millions a year, they're not going to be wearing shorts and a t-shirt to a pitch meeting. You know what I'm saying? They're gonna at minimum wear an Oxford shirt and a sport coat, right? And they're going to look relaxed. They're going to look good, and they're going to look confident in what they're doing. And I think that's the point in the lodge, right? Is that you're supposed to look good, show that you've taken care of yourself. That's part of the progress that we're trying to make for ourselves.
And so I would even say this, and I would even go as far as this, like, I don't think it's the issue of, it's not the issue of always the clothes as much as it's the issue of the clothes you're wearing are, like, they have to, in that edict, they have to say, like, you can't have like dirty sweatpants, and it's like in what world? And I know like there's it's like, oh, church attire, but in what world is it ever should you ever be like, I don't give a dang about what anyone thinks, I'm going to dress this way. But in the same token, you're trying to espouse like, oh, we built this beautiful temple of this with the finest marble and the finest wood that took all these people all this time to make, and this is a metaphor for our lives. And it's like, I don't know how you could actually live the hypocrisy of telling an entered apprentice that we took the finest builders and architects and built this with the hardest way possible, because this was the best way possible, and be like, yeah, but it doesn't matter because like it's what's inside that counts. Like that's not true.
Well,
You're
wait a minute.
lying.
Wait a minute.
Yeah.
Wait a minute. So that is sort of at the crux of what many people are arguing is that masonry regards the inner man and not the outer man, right? So in other words, we don't look for guys that are necessarily, you know, wealthy or of a certain class. We look for men who are, you know, have character and are you know, good on the inside. And so the argument goes that, you know, if that's the case, then it shouldn't matter what people wear.
But the inner person is a hypocrite if they think they can dress like that and then try to espouse some kind of greater ideal and be like, no, you are joining an organization that has done this, and it takes a man who cares about his community and cares about this, and you're a living temple. So you by not dressing up or looking like bad stuff,
Trash.
garbage, you are saying to the people around you that you're a liar, you're a hypocrite. Dare I say, you're a charlatan. So I don't. And here's the thing, like, this is a membership organization that costs money. I would go as far as saying this: should you be aware of how much this organization costs and not be able to afford it and not be able to live up to paid dues, all the while taking care of yourself and your family and everything that's around that, you're a hypocrite and you don't belong. And that's a meta point to now. If there is a, and I even hate to say this, if it's a country lodge or there's a lodge in a rural area, which even that is like you're generalizing to the hilt. But if you're saying this is for everyone, it's not. You cannot say, hey, listen, you're going to take this oath that requires you to live and understand these ideals and these ideas and do it for the betterment of the society. The betterment of society is that, like, some people need help.
Yeah.
Freemasons should be the ones to help them. But
Listen,
if you're the one who needs help,
right,
you're not a Freemason.
I mean, it's 100% true. And building, and what Nicky is basically saying is that if you're not concentrating on yourself, if you're not showing that you've done the work, how are you doing the work? Okay, if you come to the lodge in ripped jeans and a dirty shirt, how can you tell the guys that you're sitting with, hey, I'm living, you know, I'm really working on myself. I'm doing a great job. I mean, like, this masonry thing is really helping me. I'm taking all the lessons really to heart. You're clearly not. You're just not.
And if you need,
I agree with that 100%, Nicky. I hate to say that because it sounds awful. It really does, but it's the truth.
It kind of does.
The truth. But it's
all
the
right,
truth.
So let me
Isn't
back
it?
up for a second. Well, not exactly.
How is it not?
All right. So here's what I'm hearing from you guys is I'm not hearing a code, right? I'm not hearing a dress code. What I'm hearing is it's about self-respect. It's about cleanliness. It's about, you know,
Sure, all of those things.
All right. So what?
No, it's more like if
We don't. We shouldn't have to have a dress code. This should just come to you naturally. You should understand this. Yeah.
Like this. Like I have been told since time immemorial. This.
I shouldn't have to. Right.
Like I shouldn't have to tell you to dress like a normal.
Right.
Like I shouldn't have to tell you to button all the buttons.
I don't need to.
And
Right.
make the tie knot go to the top of the button where like it ergonomically is supposed to sit because it doesn't make any other sense any other way.
Okay.
Like,
wait.
all
right,
what he's saying is we shouldn't have to tell you how many pieces of flair you need to put on your shirt.
All right. Hang on a second. I would all right. Take my case. I work in an advertising agency. If I show up to an advertising agency in a suit,
they'll think you have an interview somewhere.
Yeah. It causes major problems.
Yeah.
Right? It causes major problems. Now, I'm not the sort of person who can just, you know, punch out at 4 p.m., go home, change into my suit, and then go to lodge.
Right.
I'm lucky if I get to lodge before it opens, if, just because
Right.
of my work. Right. So for me to actually, wear a suit is just a non-starter. For me to bring a suit and change into it just takes too long.
Right.
By the time I'm suited up and booted up, and I go upstairs, right? So here's the thing.
You're missing the point, right? Which is that
though?
no.
Is it really that difficult? Like,
it is because here's the thing. Like we have on a stated meeting night, we'll have a business meeting, right? And by the time I get there, get changed, get upstairs, eat something. I mean, I may not get to eat something, but by the time I get up there, right, there's maybe like 10 minutes left of the meeting.
Listen, they're fine. But what I'm saying is that are you showing up in dirty, rumpled clothing?
No.
Well, there you go. See, but the thing is that I don't think what Nicky is saying, and I know it's certainly not what I'm saying, is you're not allowed if you're not in a suit and a tie. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that show the work that you've done, show it outwardly. Show that you've taken the time. You have a nice haircut. Nicky's exempted from that. You have a show that you've taken some care. You've groomed yourself, right? Mm-hmm. That kind of stuff. That's fine. I don't care if you showed up in a collared shirt like that. That's fine. You're not going to show up like some schlub in a George Webb T-shirt. This is disrespectful. Okay. Like this is exactly what I'm talking about. Well, and that's right. And so that's the thing is that you show up to lodge wearing that collared shirt that's pressed and looks nice. You've clearly done your hair. You know what I'm saying? You've kept your beard trim. Done. Sold. It's over.
So Vernell Rivera on social media is asking, what is the uniform of a Mason?
The apron.
Man, that's not a real. It's like an apron. Like we get. So here's the thing. Like I get it. Like apron is all that matters.
No. Wait. Don't read into his question, right? He didn't.
To me, the uniform of there is no uniform of a Freemason, because everyone could like look at the Inside the Freemasons documentary that we've previously discussed and all those dudes look great. I guarantee that someone in Manchester or in Gloucester or whatever the hell, like they may not, when the Grand Master's not visiting, they may have a crooked tie and a shirt with a ring around the collar or whatever. I'm saying more to that question, the uniform of a Mason really is lodge dependent, I guess, because I would never go to one of my lodges without a suit on. Right. I wouldn't be caught dead and I'm just like visiting all this stuff. But I also know in your example, right? I have a similar example that's coming up this Wednesday. I work in Connecticut, and I have to commute to try to go to Mariners Lodge number 67. Not that I need to be there, not that I'm a member, but it's a lodge that I want to visit because they're doing a second degree. I don't work in a suit. I have my last meetings at 5:00 on Wednesday. That means I need to get to the Metro North, get to my apartment in New York, change, get there before 7:00, so I'm full. You hear me? Did I get transformers?
Yeah.
All right, got it. So I'm like, man, what do? I'm probably at the point where what I'm going to do is bring a suit bag, change, bring that to lodge. One of my lodges, the Colonial Lodge number 1821 in D.C., has sub-fuss guitar. We meet on a Saturday. Now, if someone's going, I have now gone to lodge, flown, gone to weddings, whatever. If you're on a Saturday lodge, or a lodge is coming up and you're a member and you just don't wear your white tie that we all require, like, I'm going to ask you as a member, why are you not in sub-fuss? Why didn't you wear your tie? Joining in? Why didn't you wear your white tie? Oh, I just didn't press it last night. Why? What is your answer? Oh, you're a lazy piece of poop? Well, guess what? Like, I don't want you here. Because if you cannot take the 38 minutes it takes to press a shirt and make sure you locate your tie in what I'm assuming is a regular sized apartment in Washington D.C., like, dude, get out. And I'm I'm obviously much more on the militant side of it, but like I am done being told that it is the internal and not the external qualifications of a man that make him a Mason. And you come to me with 700 lapel pins, or you're the quickest person in the world to tell everyone what you do in Freemasonry.
Okay.
No one cares.
All right. Okay.
No one cares.
I want to go back to what Vernell said. I want to go back to I want to go back to what Vernell. So Vernell said, I disagree. And Vernell, if you can, answer your own question in the comments. Tell me what is your definition of the uniform of a Mason, so we can bring that into the conversation. Oh, he's plugging power in. Okay, that's good. I thought he was going to hang himself for a second.
No,
That's for later.
I knew it was my belt.
I mean, here's the thing. Like, there are some lodges where when you meet occasionally, right? Like, in other words, if my lodge met quarterly, like some of my lodges do, right? It's not an issue, right? Because 4 times a year, it's not a big deal. And in fact, in most UK lodges meet quarterly. They don't meet monthly, right? There's not like an every night there's a Masonic thing going on, you know, for them. Typically too, I think that, when you're talking about a rural lodge, I think it does make a difference. It does matter. And here's the thing. There are plenty of nights when I go to lodge and I'm not dressed what I would say is appropriately. I keep a blazer in my car, but that sometimes is, it gets wrinkled or something like that. And I just don't go, right? I might show up to the bar later, right? I choose not to go.
Right.
Here's the problem. Now, not that I'm God's gift to Masonry, but they're being deprived of my presence in the lodge. Right? And so because of that,
but they're also being deprived of the terrible example you're setting for the other members of the lodge. So everybody wins.
I guess. I mean, that's one way.
There you go, Nicky. There's your hot take.
Right.
But so I mean, like, seriously, like yes, they're being deprived of your presence in lodge. You're a valuable member of that lodge, as every member is. But that's okay. I think guys have to understand that and say, well, that's all right. Eric couldn't make it because, if we would have let him in the lodge, he would have disturbed everything because he's coming in 10 minutes before we close, and that would have caused a big uproar, and then it drags everything on while we welcome Eric. Everyone gets to shake his hand. You know what I'm saying? Like that kind of a thing. And what you're doing is that you're respecting the lodge by saying, hey, listen, I'm not going to do that. And 2, you're not ready for lodge. You're not in the right mind space there yet to go to lodge. So that's okay. That's fine. On both ends, that's okay that you're not going to lodge. But you're doing the right thing, which is that you're going to the social afterwards. You're catching up with them at an appropriate time. It's like joining a conversation. Understand where the pause is, and then you can jump in. So I see nothing wrong with that.
All
and
right,
I think
so
the whole rural lodge thing, I can be swayed either way, to be honest. I think that if you're literally a farmer and if you're coming in from the fields, but you're gonna break away, you're gonna take the time to get to lodge on time, whatever, fine. That's fine. There are different norms in different places.
Let me ask you a question. This is maybe a stupid question. What do farmers wear? What do farmers wear?
I like to think they wear overalls, Nicky.
No, I'm honestly being like, what? Because I don't mean myself not being a farmer since my ancestors
myself not being a farmer.
Myself not being a farmer since my family immigrated here from the mountains of Italy. But I just don't like. To me, here's the thing. if we're gonna be the Saturday Night Live stereotypical what a farmer looks like, right? They're wearing the
Sure.
the plaid shirt, the overalls, and the boots,
Right.
right? If we're gonna say that's what farmers wear, because I honestly don't know.
They probably wear Dickies. I don't know.
No.
Here's the thing.
I'm saying if they do, I'm making a point that, like, if that's the case, can a rural group of people, can they have overalls that they don't wear in the field? They wear these for lodge, and these are good overalls.
No. I look.
Fair point.
I look.
Fair point.
I spend a lot of time, probably too much time, on social media, and I see lodges in places like Oklahoma and Texas where
Sure.
they wear, they'll wear a polo shirt with a Masonic thing on it, and they'll wear
short sleeve and the.
Listen,
I see that. If it's 120 in the
too.
shade, right, and your lodge is under air conditioned or not air conditioned, right, putting someone in a wool suit and having them sit in lodge is a terrible thing, right? I mean, in the Philippines, what constitutes a formal is I'm going to mispronounce this, but it's like a
clear white
right?
shirt, the clear white shirt deal,
yeah. So I think it can be and should be highly variable depending on the lodge that you're in.
Sure.
I think, if I were to say, like, how do farmers dress the way they dress. Some farmers, no, really, some farmers
right. That's fair.
If your farm is where you live, right, you probably coming off the fields, you wear jeans.
Sure.
You might put on a clean pair of jeans and a pair of boots and a hat and a long sleeve shirt, and you show up at
Right.
lodge,
That's what I'm saying. That's exactly what we're saying.
And that's okay.
Because what you've done is that you've at least prepared. You've at least tried. You've improved yourself, if ever so slightly, before you got in a lodge to work on improving yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Okay, so now let's talk. We in preparation for this episode, we all read some articles, right?
We did.
And Jason,
Eric gave us homework.
Yeah. Why don't you tell us, like, the article that you found? What is it?
I wish I had it up. It was it the Vox? It was the Vox article, and it was an article that a member of Nicky and I in my lodge, the Colonial Lodge number 1821, a fine institution, was an article that he had posted, and the Vox article was all about the disappearing trend of wearing a suit to your workplace.
Mm-hmm.
And is a suit even appropriate anymore? And it really kind of covered what we've all just sort of covered as well, which is that, when people go to work, you're there to work. If you're not if you're not trying to impress someone physically, like I'm a salesperson, I've got to go out, and present myself as the company. If I'm not a TV meteorologist that literally is going to be seen by hundreds of thousands of people every day.
Wow, what a great gig, huh? God.
Oh, it's the best. So the thing is that, like, if you're not in those positions, if you're a coder, if you're a advertising executive, a creative, right? Wear whatever the hell you want. Wear your pajamas. Who cares? As long as you do the work, no one cares about anything else.
Okay, so that's different. That's different than what you said at the beginning of the show.
Well, no. It's not. It's not at all. I'm saying, as long as you're not presenting yourself to anyone, if you're not, being seen, who cares? If you're typing away at your laptop, it doesn't matter. But as soon as you break away from that, if I had to go to a meeting, with other people in my office, I would probably wear something that's a little bit nicer than just the schlub stuff I'm wearing. You know what I'm saying?
Okay, so let's purge the word schlub for a second, because it's highly subjective, and I'm trying to get to, like, we're talking about dress codes here, right? Not fashion sense.
Okay.
Right. Okay. So this article, which I have in front of me, and we'll put all the article titles in the show links. It starts out, the suit was once the uniform of the powerful and a requirement for every man. Now people mostly wear suits when they're in trouble. In April, in April 2018, Mark Zuckerberg made a rare public appearance wearing a suit. Congress had compelled him to testify on Capitol Hill. The lawmakers curious why Facebook had been so adept at harvesting personal data and so inept at policing Russian spies. Zuckerberg's suit was navy and his tie was bright blue, a shade or two lighter than Facebook's color scheme. The New York Times called it his "I'm sorry" suit, and like many outlets, praised his appearance and poise. He was lauded for a strategic decision to make a visual statement of contrition. Had he? Or was he in a suit because Congress had dictated the terms for him? For one of the few times in his adult life, sweating through a barrage of government questions, Zuckerberg was not in control. And these days, when you are not in control, you wear a suit.
That's
It's interesting.
garbage. That's absolute garbage. Like,
Yeah.
So didn't he have, like, I assume they said he wasn't in control, as in that's a very strongly artistic way of saying there are rules for decorum in the floor of, like, in the halls of the Congress. Like, you can't be not in a suit. Isn't that a rule, right? You have to be wearing a suit.
Yeah.
Right.
So, like, so that's to say he wasn't in control. It's like, dude, like,
right.
like, shut up, person. You're dumb. That's wrong. He wore a suit. It said, "I'm sorry" suit. Let's also talk about. Do we want to make? He drank water like an alien. Do we want to talk about that? And that's what's weird about, like, his appearance. Like, the Congress made him drink water out of a glass thing instead of.
So,
like,
listen. So
get out of here, dude.
So here's the thing too, right? Is like, especially in the case of people like Zuckerberg, right? Is that it's just like you wearing a suit, Eric, at work. Is that when a person like Zuckerberg chooses to wear a suit, everyone goes, "Oh God, what happened?
Right.
Why is that going on?" And the reason being is because increasingly people in power choose not to wear a suit for whatever reason. They just choose not to. And what's really funny about that is that that whole control thing, Nikki, is I get what they're saying there, which is basically like, listen, somebody else told you had to. And Zuckerberg, especially someone like him, is used to having FU money. And the point of having FU money is to say, I'm not wearing a suit when you think I should. I'm going to show up to this board meeting in Barbados, with 14 of the richest people on the planet. And we're going to talk about one of the largest companies, most profitable companies on the planet. And I'm going to do it in a sweatshirt.
Yeah, 100%.
Because I can.
Steve
because I can. Exactly. Because he could.
Deal.
And he liked to tell people, yeah, I do it because I can. Period.
And so I think
it's a power move.
Yeah, but here's the thing. I would also, probably with the exception of the last days of his life and when he went through that hippie phase, like, I assume that Steve Jobs, like, took a shower every morning and he wore, like,
right.
Like, I assume, like, basic levels of cleanliness, like, applied, right? And so that's where I understand what people say. Like, I say to my team all the time, like, why are we backstage in Texarkana wearing a suit? This makes no sense, because it's like, I'm going to ruin a piece of property that I own, that I don't have many of, that is expensive and whatever. I think people are declining in suits because people don't know how to wear them properly and they're uncomfortable in them. Wearing my suit is like wearing a pair of jeans. There's no difference to me whether I'm wearing this or I'm wearing, like, if you have a shirt that you've had for too long and the buttons are like, that's uncomfortable because you're wearing a piece of clothing that doesn't fit you. Just like if I wear a t-shirt that is, if you're wearing a t-shirt that's too short and you see, like, your stomach popping out of it, like, you're wearing a piece of clothing that doesn't fit you.
Yeah, right. So, listen, and Nikki, you're 100% right. And I think that most people these days, when you say, hey, wear a suit, they think, oh God, I got to go and buy a suit. Well, when you get that suit tailored, right? That's not what Nikki's talking about. What Nikki's talking about is go find a tailor to make you one from scratch. Don't buy something off a rack. Go get a tailor, a real tailor, to actually make you a suit. because if they do it, it's going to cost you a little bit more money. It's not going to be actually much more than you think. You can get a tailored suit made for you, made to measure, for $500. No problem. No problem.
I can tell you though, that's a lot of money for certain people.
You could probably get one for $300.
That's a lot of money.
Sure, you could probably get one for $300, and especially considering
a custom made suit. Yes, if you can get to Hong Kong. No,
well,
dude, trust me. If you
well, that too,
right? I mean, you can go to like a place like Indochine, right? Which will, right? Unless you're my size, right? Because they max out, and they're just they look at me and they go,
no thanks.
Right. Yeah. So for me, like a guy like me, who is rather large in circumference, right? For me to get a suit is not trivial, right?
Right.
It just that's the kind of thing we have. The problem too is that it used to be that there were tailors everywhere, right? You could get a suit for not a lot of money because there were tailors everywhere. Today, and here's the thing.
True. It's hard to find a good one.
Well, what these articles were saying is that suits are declining, right? They're declining about 10% year over year, right? Which is that's a pretty big number, right? 10% year over year, is a big chunk of change. And if you're a tailor, and so I guess what I'm saying is that like suits are great, but the reality is our world is eliminating the suit, right? And it's kind of like I liken it to the point in time in the early 1800s where we went from, knee breeches and silk stockings and a waistcoat and an overcoat to a suit, to what's called a lounge suit, right? Right.
So awesome.
But like no self-respecting gentleman would be caught without silk stockings and a waistcoat and a it fashions change. And so what does that say? What does that say about the like how does that affect the dress code, right? If you work in an industry, right, Silicon Valley, advertising, banking, right, where the idea of wearing a suit is not, it's not common. It's not, it's frowned upon. It's not the uniform of business anymore. Right. What, like, is Masonry going to like not change with the times, or is it going to like, are we going to kind of insist on an older method? And if we are, why? Now, here's the thing. I'm not arguing against the idea of being well-groomed and wearing clean clothes and pressed clothes. And, like when I go to a client meeting, typically I wear an Oxford shirt. I generally don't wear a tie. Might wear a blazer, jeans, and some, either basic, non-athletic sneakers or, just leather shoes, right? But that's the uniform. And if I go to a pitch, that's what we wear, right? And that's business. That's not business casual. That's getting dressed up for a client.
Business, right? That's business.
If I were going to meet with a CEO, that's what I'd wear, because that's what's expected in my industry. Now, different industries do different things. I'm sure that the guys who show up to work who you cover, Nicky, they have a certain dress code, right? And if they showed up in a suit and tie to the ring, right, people would be disappointed in that, right?
Well, with the exception of Cesaro, who is a Swiss Superman, who used to wear a rip-off suit, which was awesome. By the way, awesome.
Yeah.
I should say. You should go check out WWE Cesaro. Incredible performer. Incredible. So here's the thing too. I
have a rip-off suit, but it's a different story.
I get it. Yeah, it's like get mask. It's like, I don't. So I think this all goes back to, and Masonry. Like, I get it. Like the ad world, whatever. Social media, like everyone's headshots, like.
Yeah. Right.
Like black and white, or like I get it. Like I get the gimmick, right? I understand.
Okay.
But like, here's the thing. I think that people stray, and I'm not even the custom suit or off the rack thing. I think like, listen, not everyone like people don't have money. You don't have money. I get it. Like it's fine. But I think it's also too the people are not wearing clothing appropriately, and that's why I think a bit of it has gone to not wearing suits. But then again, I don't think that in the 50s, I don't think our fascination with Don Draper, I don't think that everyone thought it was eventually going to be like this.
Yeah, right.
Sitting
Exactly.
on a computer and typing and being hunched over for 8 hours, right? Or like coding, or like I think that if you look back at all of those, the way that people dressed, especially ad world, especially that like fascination with it, right? You come in a suit so you look cool as hell because you were a creative and you were like, I'm the creative director for whatever, or for Ogilvy. You come in your skinny tie and black and white shirt and skinny, dark suit. Take that off, roll up your sleeves, draw your designs upon your trestle board for like Fly Delta, it's the way men do it, or whatever the hell, and then you go out at like 6 o'clock, get whacked out of your brain, and then take the train to Costco up in the suit because that's what you look, because that's like how you picked up babes. Like that's the a la mode is going to change, but like people, when the suit was in high fashion, according to these articles, people wore them properly. Mm-hmm. Like the fact that someone will chastise another member about not being in a tuxedo at 8 a.m. in the morning, and by the way, they're wearing a red clip-on bow tie. It's like you look like a waiter from like Vienna in 1961. Right. Like, what are you dressed as? And like that to me is like, if you don't know the proper way to be styled or dressed, well, like, yeah, of course you're gonna like be upset about it.
Right. And it's funny because like it's kind of an obsession for Masons. Masons, I see every Mason talking about proper attire for a formal event and blah, blah, blah. We all talk about it. And like the best part is that, one of the first things you learn is that the tuxedo was what the help wore. White tie and tails is dinner attire. That's you dressing up for dinner. And if you were in anything less than that, you were the help. Yeah. The tuxedos were the help. There's something to that,
Okay, so here's
but
a bit of trivia.
now tuxedo is super, super dressy for us.
All right, so here's a bit of trivia for you.
Mm-hmm.
Why do Masons wear a black suit?
I don't know. They just don't know how to dress themselves. They probably only because I don't know. It's wrong. It's incorrect.
The correct answer is they wear a black suit because the Grand Lodge of England started this tradition of wearing a black suit. Now, why did they do that? It was to commemorate the fallen brethren in World War I. Up until World War I, they didn't wear black suits.
Sure.
What did they wear?
They wore whatever was business in their lodge, of the day. Yeah.
All right.
That whole uniform thing is a 20th century innovation, right?
Yeah, it's interesting.
Okay. So I found this really amusing article, which I didn't forward to you guys. But it was
can I just add a caveat to that?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
I would also argue that those 20th century brethren are the ones who actually paid to build the grand temples and put their money where their mouth was.
Fair.
So guess what? They get to decide what to wear.
No, look, I'm not arguing with them. Like, if that's the, I mean, here's the funny thing. If you go to the Freemasons Hall on Great Queen Street in Covent Garden, mm-hmm. right, and go to the bookstore, you can buy a Masonic suit, and you can buy a Masonic suit for around 25 pounds. It's a terrible suit. It's polyester. It looks like it came out of a Party City, Halloween pop-up mm-hmm. store, right? But it meets the requirements, right? Mm-hmm. And so that's the sort of the minimum acceptable thing, right? So So here are the 10 Commandments. It was written by a British Mason of Masonic dress, right? Number one, thou shalt wear tailored. A Freemason's first priority should be to wear bespoke. There are no shortcuts in the world of true bespoke. Bespoke can therefore never be cheap.
It's true.
Right?
It's true. Hard to find a bespoke tailor, though.
Yeah. They are urged to remember that one good bespoke lodge suit is worth a whole wardrobe of inferior items.
Fact.
Dark lounge is the appropriate dress for members up to provincial rank. Dark morning dress with a black short jacket, black waistcoat, and stripes is worn by members of provincial grand rank and above.
What the hell's a waistcoat?
Waistcoat.
Oh, waistcoat.
Waistcoat.
You pronounce it as a waistcoat.
No, waistcoat.
Yeah, waistcoat. Commandment 2, thou shalt walk only on leather. Sneakers are for casual wear. They are not fit for lodge, nor do we countenance those shoes which, at an indifferent glance, look passable but have soles made from synthetic material.
Yeah.
Freemasons should wear leather soles. Should wear leather shoes, preferably the Gibson.
Yeah, I get that.
Right. All right.
This is the second hackers reference you've made tonight.
3, thou shalt wear a collar and tie. And this the explanation, I won't go into that, but it's basically, Jason, what you argued before. It's about taking time and looking prepared.
Right. Mm-hmm.
4, thou shalt have smart hair. Sorry,
I do.
You kidding me? These locks are so thick.
You got like 40 pounds of hair, Nicky.
Sure do.
I'm surprised your neck can hold it.
By smart hair, he means parted hair.
Part is literally that word there.
Yeah, a part.
Mm-hmm. He's gonna part.
Yeah.
Well done.
Commandment number 5, thou shalt wear cufflinks. A button cuff on a gentleman's shirt is a miserable, squalid thing, suggestive of the couldn't care less attitude.
That's nice. I like that though. Squalid. That's such a great word. I'm so going to use that this week.
6.
I'm going to call somebody squalid.
6. Thou shalt wear braces. Trousers could only be kept at the correct height by braces. Nothing is more dispiriting than the sight of trousers sagging at the waist and horribly crumpled at the shoe.
Well, yeah, that makes sense. But you can wear a belt. I mean, I get it. They don't have belts or whatever.
Sure.
7 is thou shalt not wear unpolished shoes. I get that. 8, thou shalt not wear unfastened cuff buttons. Every gentleman should have working cuff buttons on his jacket, but to leave any of them unbuttoned, one supposes, is to impress the observer with the quality or expense of the garment being worn, is unconsciously vulgar. Unconscionably vulgar.
Yeah.
I do that. I'm kind of a douche.
Do you really?
And
that doesn't surprise me at all.
Number 9, I don't know why number 9 is here. It says thou shalt not be late. That's a topic for another episode.
Yeah, okay.
And 10, get this one. Mm-hmm. Thou shalt not chew mints.
Oh yeah. I agree with that.
Have generally good oral hygiene, I guess.
Wow. Hey, did you know that I literally just heard this yesterday, the day before? A full 40% of Brits don't brush their teeth. That's an actual stat. 40%. Okay. Yeah. So, hey, Mr. 10 Commandment guy, that 10, not going to pass in Britain.
Hey, brush your teeth, mate, all right? Brush it up and down, side to side. Don't forget your molars.
Use the brushing powder. All right.
Yeah. All right. So
I agree with most of those.
I don't.
Really?
Yeah. First of all, bespoke. Come on.
If you can, you have to. Because here's the thing. Is that, like, so Nicky talked about how when he wears his suit, it feels like wearing jeans, and the reason that it's like that isn't because Nicky is just wears a suit all the time and is used to it. It's because Nicky got a handmade suit, and when you get a handmade suit done for you, it feels fantastic because it is literally built for you and no one else, and it moves with you. It's amazing. A well-tailored suit is, I mean, it's a thing of beauty. It is just like wearing jeans. I mean, it's that comfortable. If can,
Are we still
do
talking?
it. Just saying. If can, do it. Do it.
And no, here's the thing. And I man, we get into this conversation is very easy to get classist very easily of like, hey, listen, like,
Yeah,
buy
totally.
a nice suit. Buy a nice suit. Don't look like a schlub.
Thou shalt walk on
Right.
leather.
Thou shalt like. Here's the thing. Like
Right.
I do believe that is of a time where there was a very easily discernible class system of saying, like, if you had money, you were a Freemason. If you didn't have money, you weren't a Freemason. Now, that opens up a whole other can of worms of egalitarianism and whatever the case may be. But, like, I don't know that you don't, I'm going to say this and then pretend like I didn't say it. I don't know that you necessarily need money to be a Freemason, but I don't know that you don't need money to be a Freemason. Why I asked the farmer question before, like, what do farmers actually wear, is because I was thinking about it logistically and just thinking, like, I can't imagine how distracted I would be if, and I barely polish my shoes. I don't really do it. I have a cousin who like loves polishing his shoes. And it's like just playing up every like stereotype of an Italian American tailor. And so like I would just, me personally, if I looked at my shoes and there was a big scuff mark, actually I was at a Master Mason in La France Lodge in 2012, and I was sitting there and I didn't have, I was a grad student, didn't have a lot of money, and I just remember extending my feet, sitting on, and then, but looking and seeing this huge scuff across the front of my shoes. And it was a dark, they were doing it, they do emulation, so it was much darker in the room. But all I could do was focus on this scuff on my shoes. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm so embarrassed that if anyone sees my shoes, they'll be like, whatever about it. And it was so distracting to me that completely took me out of the lodge experience. And I don't think that anyone's as like having the internal Patrick Bateman voice as much as I do, but I do think that
wait, is that an American Psycho reference?
It is.
I just want to make sure, because I wasn't tracking for a second.
So I look at like,
I live in the American Gardens building.
I live in Gardens. That's beautiful. Chardonnay. And so I think actually more so, and all of my like pretension and all of my uppityness really comes from being the candidate. And whether it's when you're the candidate and it's very like, you have the one person who's talking on the side, or even if they're whispering or they're on their phone, like it just destroys everything. And I think that without getting too, in the book, when the candidate sees the lodge room for the first time, and it's striking for a number of reasons, because especially if you're not a learned candidate, if you're just honestly coming in as a first timer, and you see every single distraction, because you're taught and you're told and you recite how important everything is, where things are placed, how objects and people are interacting with you. Your senses are heightened, not only because a portion of which you're hoodwinked, but more so you're told specifically, hey, this happened because it's important. That happened because this is important. You're doing this because this is placed here specifically. And I can't think of anything worse than being on heightened sense alert and looking around and seeing someone like this and seeing their face being illuminated by the screen, or seeing someone who when the master is wearing a top hat and ostensibly the best dressed or one of the best dressed, and then you just see like these like lodge members who like don't look good. And to me, it's the easiest way to have the rip cord pulled and be like, it's all fake. Oh, it's not real. Oh, I'm just in the lodge room down the street from the bar. It's like,
God, I wish I could meme that.
That sucks. Like, that's such a crappy experience, right?
Yeah, I agree
And
with that.
I don't think that people think that way. And I think that we layer these rules and layer the wear a real bow tie and like, oh, like, and the, oh, where'd you get that suit made? Is that suit off the rack? Oh, no. Like, I think we layer that because we don't understand where it's coming from. And to me, I know for a fact, it sucks being a candidate, having had this happen, and like, you forget that it's not, you find out that Santa Claus isn't real. And like, it sucks. And it doesn't need to be that way. It doesn't need to be that way, because the way that it reads, the way that when people do ritual properly, you feel it's a cool, you get to be a star in a movie. What's cooler than that? That's awesome. And like, the worst thing is like being the star in the movie where you're learning that Old Yeller needs to put down, and you see the grip on the side of the stage, and he's like,
yeah,
you know, like, that sucks. So that, if anyone takes umbrage with what I'm saying, that is everything that drives me. It's purely the experience of the candidate and the members of the lodge.
Yeah, yeah, I agree with that. Mic dropped. I totally agree with it, Nicky, and I think that you're 100% right. Is that is exactly what it's all really about. It's about an impression on that candidate, and then hopefully that candidate takes that in and makes an impression on the next candidate.
Mm-hmm. What about lodge uniforms? So, for example,
like zip up tracksuits.
Yeah.
Stripe on the side. Dude, I'm in. Yeah. I'm in. That is dope.
No, but there are lodges that, you know, they all wear blue blazers with a crest on it, you know. That makes it easy.
That looks awesome. And even to the point of, hey, like, stuff costs money, like, it's expensive, right? Like, if I would be more upset if right above the G in the lodge you saw the rotting drywall, as opposed to everyone wearing the royal blue shirts with the square and compasses with, you know, Pawtucket Lodge 98 and whatever. Like, I'm getting angrier about, like, oh, you're the guy telling everyone to wear a suit and look good, and maybe your suit looks good, but you have every Masonic honor and chain and collar you ever got. You have every lapel. It's like, it's just distracting. So I'm less pro-sartorial and more anti-distraction.
Yeah.
Now that's the first thing you've said, Nicky, that I 100% agree with.
Congratulations.
It only took an hour, but all right. So because here's the thing, like, I think as time goes on, I think it's, I know it's going to be on your Christmas list, my friend. It's going to be mustache wax.
I'm the third baronet.
I think that the fact that we are, I mean, even James Bond, right, is wearing like a cardigan sweater and slacks and suede boots, right?
He wore a polo. He literally wore a polo, which, by the way, I found out what brand it was, and I'm going to buy one.
He's also murdering people in that movie, so I don't know that
fair.
We can consider
with his bare hands, actually. When he's in his polo, but he's always
done that. But here's what I want to say. I think that as the suit continues to decline, I think we're going to have to come up with different rules, because I think that the idea of a dress code, right? And I'm making the distinction of code as different than, you know, we have a tradition in our lodge that all officers wear black tie and a third degree. That's our, my lodge, that's our tradition.
Right.
Right. And so it's kind of like, all right, well, if you're going to be an officer, you know what you're in for. We only do a couple third degrees a year. It's not that much of a hardship.
Right.
You know, bring a tux. We allow a little bit of extra time for people to suit up and boot up.
Mm-hmm.
But I think we're going to have to come to a different understanding in the craft as to what constitutes well-dressed, right? And some of the things that you guys have said in the earlier part of the show, I definitely agree with. Clothes that are in good repair, not ripped, right? Even strategically ripped, right? You know, like
Which is
there's
way
a
worse, by the way.
there's a right.
It
Yeah,
really
right.
is.
Yeah, no, it is.
It really is.
You know, there are lodges. I know of one.
Can I add one thing? Can I add one thing to that? By the way,
of course.
strategically ripped or with obvious labels, like Dolce and Gabbana jeans that have like the big metal freaking thing on the back. Yeah,
The American
that
Express
should
Platinum
literally.
card on the
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just if I could, I'd run around with one of those candle lighters, and I would just burn those off of people. That's how bad those are. Anyhow,
Yeah.
sorry.
All right.
That's just me. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think the idea of a code, we're going to have to be a little bit more circumspect about it and a little bit more forgiving.
Right. Sure.
And so I have a proposal. I've come up with because for people who don't know, both Jason and I have our own Grand Lodges. It's the Grand Lodge of Eric and the Grand Lodge of Jason.
It's true.
That if we were our own Grand Masters, we would, you know, it's of course a completely clandestine lodge, but
that's absolutely right. God, there'd be so many people against the wall. Sorry, go ahead.
All right, so here's sort of my dress code. Here's my rules of clothing.
Yeah.
All right. Number 1, always look smart and well put together. Look like you made an effort.
Okay.
That's interpretive.
It is, but all right. Keep going.
Okay. Number 2, wear dark colors. Nothing too flashy. You don't want to be showing off.
All right.
Yeah. You have to watch the podcast to get the joke.
Nikki's punchy,
great.
and he's showing off his Rolex.
Yeah. Okay.
Very nice. Very nice, Nicky. Is that real?
In Barbès it is. 40 euro in Barbès. Yours for 25.
Number 3, simple and classic shoes in neutrals: brown, black, navy, gray.
Okay.
Right? Don't wear Nike, the Bauhaus commemorative edition Nikes. I don't care how much they cost. Right. I guess the common theme of my rules is don't draw attention. Right.
Okay.
You're not there to show off. You're there to be you're there to fit in. Right.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
One of us.
Add, yeah, exactly. Add color with accessories. Your tie, your pocket square, your
socks,
your fancy pocket watch. That's where you get to show off, right?
We draw the line at you showing your underpants, but go ahead. Yeah.
Number 5, more than one lapel pin is bragging. Resist the urge.
One lapel pin at most.
Yeah.
Meaning, I often don't wear them at all.
Where do they come from?
Lapel pins?
What's the?
Because those are the wages of a master mason.
Correct.
Lapel pins.
Lapel pins.
No, but I mean like in the was it like people used to wear flowers and they couldn't cut fresh flowers, so they wore something that looked like a fresh, like what?
Probably.
No. It started out as it was literally a button that you would put in the buttonhole of your lapel.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Right. And over time, as those buttons became fake, those buttonholes became fake. They evolved. So if you look at like really old Masonic pins, they're actually buttons. They're not actual pins. You can't like stick them through fabric. You have to, there's like a screw back to them, and they actually have a button back. And so they would put them inside the button of the lapel, and it was a way to just, show affiliation for something.
Oh.
Right. And so that's where sartorially they come from. Number 6, when in doubt, follow the lodge.
All right.
Right. So if your lodge is all polo shirts and jeans, again, showing up in a suit, you're not going to fit in. You're not going to blend in.
Fair.
Right. If you're a visitor, it's fine. Right. Number 7, don't let dress be a reason not to attend lodge.
Oh, I disagree with that, but okay.
Yeah, I just think that if
That'll
the-
get you called into the Grand Master's office for a meeting in the Grand Lodge adjacent.
yeah, okay. I mean, that's
Just
fair
saying.
enough. I just
saying.
think
They're your rules. It's your Grand Lodge.
I just think
we don't
that
have to recognize
yeah,
you.
if I'm the sort of guy who's underemployed and I can't afford to buy a new suit because my girth got too big or something like that.
The lodge will help you out.
Well,
Grand Lodge adjacent. We're here for you.
okay.
That's actually our motto.
Number 8.
But it's in Latin.
God, I would so
We're here for
argue
you.
that you probably shouldn't be going and spending money on free if
Ah,
you don't have
yeah.
a job.
Mm-hmm.
Dude,
Okay.
Do you see how that went? By the way,
you know what, Nicky, you're
it went
young.
like this. It went like this. It went liberal over here. It went moderate, and then it went conservative crazy.
Yeah,
That's how that went.
I mean, here's the thing, Nicky. Like
It
you're
hurts me to say it out loud.
you're gainfully employed.
Mm-hmm.
You've got a great job. You're
Mhm.
highly educated. You're somewhat privileged.
No, stop it.
I know. I'm just right.
You're just
I'm just
flattering me.
yeah. But as someone who has been unemployed for long periods of time, it's an issue. And it's not like you don't start out like that, right?
No, I'm fine.
Things
Listen,
happen. Things
In
happen.
the Grand
a
Lodge adjacent would help you
100%.
out.
And if that's
Grand
and
Lodge
if that's
adjacent would help you.
and if that here's the thing, my position is if that's the thing that's preventing you from going to lodge and you're in that
Right,
situation,
absolutely.
you
I
need
would
to
help.
go to lodge. You need to be with
Yeah,
your
I agree.
brothers.
I agree.
They're what's keeping you afloat. Do not let that be a reason not to participate in Freemasonry. There's a role, there's a place, there's something that can be worked out.
So I'm saying that I don't. Yeah. Well, let's go. Let's talk about clothes.
Yeah.
All right.
Let's talk about
Keep going.
clothes.
Number 8. Don't give anyone a hard time about what they choose to wear. They may have a constraint. Not everybody can afford a
fine.
tailored suit, right?
That's fine. Yeah.
Not
As long as
everybody
you're-
knows
As long as you're
how to hem
following
their pants correctly.
Right, sure. As long as you're following the rules from above that, I'm fine. Okay. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Don't wear a red
Number
jacket.
9, wear no slogans. The Freemason is circumspect, not loud.
Right.
Right. So that means I don't want to see,
Right.
you know,
Gucci.
put it this way: if you're going to wear a T-shirt under a jacket, I think it's perfectly acceptable.
Yeah.
Make it a plain T-shirt. I don't want to see a Freemasonry skull with
Sure.
with a square and compasses in its mouth. Right. I don't need to see that. Right. And then number 10, wear a jacket or sweater. No bare shirt sleeves. Just put something on over it.
Sure. Okay. I'm fine with that. Okay.
Those are my 10 rules.
All right. Those aren't bad. They're not bad. I'd change a couple of them, but I mean they're pretty good. I mean, I wouldn't
Would
really
you-
change.
would
too
you
much.
add-
No, I wouldn't
would you
change
add
too much.
any?
I would no. I would. The don't let dress be the barrier to lodge. I would say I would add the caveat of don't let dress be the barrier to lodge. Your lodge should be helping you. That's it. That's the only change I'd make. No, other than that, I think it's completely reasonable. The Grand Lodge of Eric is in good standing.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, you know what? We'll go ahead and recognize you again. We've we'll recognize.
You know that would be a great episode where we pull recognition from each other, and
That would be amazing, and I'm 100% in on it.
we got to do
I'm
that.
100%. Yeah.
Nicky, would you add any other rules?
No, I don't know that I would add. I'd probably take some away and the 20 commandments, the 10 commandments. Yeah, I'd probably do
Right.
that.
He's 10.
Yeah, these 10. I don't. Yeah, again, it's hard. I think this, and I don't know. We've had this conversation, or it is hard to. I don't live like I visited a lodge in Florida in Orlando, on a whim, and I went in a suit because that's what we dress in, and everyone
That's
was
what you
wearing
do.
shorts. I mean, jeans and maybe Oxfords, whatever. And everyone looked at me weird and like made me almost feel a bit uncomfortable. And and I would argue that no one in this lodge was getting on a tractor at 5 a.m. and
Right.
tractoring.
Farming,
no one,
tilling,
farming,
sowing.
Thank you, tilling. Yeah, thank you.
You are such a city mouse.
Aren't you? Yeah.
And so no, there was, and it was a city lodge. It was in a city. So to me, it's like, I know that. I don't. I'm just gonna sound like a douchebag, so I'm not gonna say anything. But I don't know that. I don't know. I don't know that there was anything preventative from anyone wearing that, except like they just don't want to wear it, right? So
yeah.
And I saw pictures from their lodge. They went to a Rainbow Girls thing that Saturday, and they all wore suits. So it's like,
sure.
Ipso facto, I don't know. You're lazy. I don't know. I didn't say that. You're lazy.
You suck.
You're lazy. You're all lazy.
Yeah,
That's fine.
That's nice. All right.
I'm a city mouse. You're all lazy.
Let me just scroll.
I also do like being the heel on the show. I like being the bad guy on the show. It's fun.
I know. That's why we have you here, Nicky. That's why.
Because
I've always known. Honestly,
anyway.
It's funny. I was in my car on my way to work, and I called Jason, and I said, hey, I wonder if Nicky's in town, and he'd be like, and Jason's like, oh, that'll be great, because he'll just go off for like an hour, and I'm like, yeah, that's good radio.
Yeah,
it is.
So Jeff Dyer had some really good comments. He one of the things that he said, he said he said that you need to work with me. I call on bespoke tailors every week. So I guess he's in the menswear business.
Terrific.
He also said, I felt overdressed in churches in Florida, but never a lodge.
Nice.
Yeah.
Wait, Jeff work at Fashionable Mill in the mall?
What's that?
Works for Fashionable Male.
I don't
in the
know.
mall. It's mall rats efforts. Yeah.
Okay. And then he said that he said younger people are actually moving back to nicer dress. And Jeff, I would agree with you there.
That's fair.
It's different though. It's not
right.
It's not
it's more of a dandy thing.
It's not a sack suit and a tie and it's
right.
It's more it's interesting because I do a lot of research and stuff in my job on kind of changing notions of luxury.
Mm-hmm.
And luxury used to be about rarity and expense and effort, right? And now it's about this sort of optimized object, right? So like, in other words, we spend, $400 on Common Project sneakers, which is just for people who haven't seen a Common Project sneaker, I mean, you can Google it, but it's just a very simple white low top sneaker with like no branding on it,
Yeah.
Whereas labels used to be really important in the 70s and 80s. Now the trend is to, have no branding on your clothing and let the, clothing kind of speak for itself. So I would agree, Jeff, that I think younger people are moving back to nicer dress, but it's different. It's interpreted. I don't think the jacket is going away, but the way it's cut is probably going to change. The fact that we're not, probably most of us are not going to be wearing ties for very much longer. Except in the most formal of circumstances. Like, look, I get it. Congress, yes. But Congress is like, how many people in Congress are under the age of 50, right?
Correct.
It's just not many, right? So I think that as time goes on, as these people who are millennials today and Gen Z today, as they sort of progress and they get older and they, the modes of dress will change. What doesn't change is care, grooming, attention to detail, looking put together, and looking in a way that is dignified, and doesn't call attention to yourself. To me, that's the essence of Masonic dress. And look, I'm the first person to admit that, like, when you get a bunch of guys in dark suits, in lodge, it looks great. And, it's like, it's funny, but I see pictures of like, a bunch of guys, after the degree, and they're all wearing, whatever, they're wearing shorts and flip flops and, and then I see a picture of like a British lodge and they're all like uniform and with their regalia on. It looks great. It does. Like you cannot deny that. It's just that I for me, and maybe this is the, maybe this is my inner liberal talking. I just feel like being dogmatic about it isn't helping Masonry. It's, I think it's more of trying to peel back the layers and figure out like, what is it that we're trying to get done here? And then doing it in a way that doesn't, that doesn't create, put it this way. It should never be a costume, right? You should never feel like you're wearing a costume to lodge. Right. As soon as it starts to feel like a costume, you're not well dressed anymore. You're dressed in a costume.
Yeah.
Right. And sometimes that's appropriate, right? Black tie is a costume. Yeah. White tie is a costume. And sometimes that costume is appropriate because of the message that you're trying to send. And look, one of the great things about tuxedos is that tuxedos, first of all, they're inexpensive, right? For people who don't own a tuxedo that are listening to this, I got news for you. The tuxedo, the tuxedo that you buy is probably going to be the least expensive suit you'll ever buy, right? That's just the way it is. I don't know why probably because it's just like one color, right? It's pretty much black.
Well, yeah, and it's that it's not very sought after.
Yeah. So the other thing about a tuxedo, which that has a lot going for it, is that it is truly. If only.
He's like, guys,
fashionable now.
But here's the thing, like there are reasons. I mean, one of the things about a tuxedo, which is kind of cool, and one of the things that was cool about white tie, back in the Downton Abbey days, right, was that it's a uniform, and because everybody's dressed the same, it doesn't call attention to yourself. And in fact, that was one of the main reasons. Right. Masons wear gloves because when you shake a Mason's hand, you shouldn't know whether their hands are rough or not rough, because that's a giveaway. That's a giveaway to your class. Right. So when everybody's dressed the same, right? When the Grand Lodge imposes this dress code in England, it's about eliminating signs of class. And I get that. Yeah. Right. So I'm all for, tuxedo when it's appropriate. I'm all for looking good. I bristle at, I did a show back in the early days of X-Oriente called Fundamentalist Freemasonry. I bristle at anything that sort of smacks of fundamentalism and says that, I know, Nicky, you're raising your hand.
Yeah, he is. Right.
And we love you for it, but that's why you're not Grand Master.
That's right.
There's a number of reasons why I'm not Grand.
Right. So I just feel like, and this kind of extends into the realm beyond just how we dress, but it's how we comport ourselves. What we think is important. I think it's really important to understand that Freemasonry is a really varied quilt. Right. It's not one thing. It's not a uniform thing. And depending on where you go in the world, it's different values. It's different. It's different points of view. But what unites us all is a desire to be our higher selves, and that should reflect in the way we dress, right? But there's no standard, there's no threshold, there's no code that defines what that is, right? Because to do that is to negate a person's work in the quarry, I think, right? Mm-hmm. So I would agree, Jason, with what you said earlier in the show, which is it's about taking time, taking effort, creating a sense that this is different, right? So one of the things that's interesting, but in the York Rite, they say holiness to the Lord, right? It's a big thing, right? Because it was in the Bible, right? Holiness to the Lord. And the word holy, right? The kadosh, right, means to set apart. That's literally what it means. It means to set apart. And so the idea of lodge is that it's this time in this space that's set apart from our everyday routine. So yes, you should dress a little differently than you do every day, right? What that is interpretive, right? Maybe it's putting on a lodge blazer. Maybe it's putting on a tuxedo. Maybe it's putting on a suit. Maybe it's putting on a jacket. Maybe if you don't wear a jacket every day, putting on that jacket makes it different, and you should feel different. Anyway, that's my 2 cents.
Yeah, I'm 100% behind that.
So I like when you get on your soapbox because I like to just kick it out from under you. Why I say that? Why? I'm actually joking. No, and you wrapped up a lot of things very nicely.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't wait to visit your store, Fashionable Mail in the mall, where that kid respects that damn escalator. That's 2 more references in one thing. More so. So here is what I will say is my final hot take. I believe that we are having these questions and these thoughts and these conversations because I do feel that even in the times when I'm angry with the organization around Freemasonry, I do feel like it is something so strange and unusual that is so far out of the realm of normality, of a normal person's day, a normal person's life, trying to explain it, the question of what is Freemasonry, right? Like even the breath you take to try to answer that question is the separation from everyday life. I fear that, I don't fear, I feel that we have these conversations and we need to talk about dress codes and what's appropriate and talk about this varied quilt because people do not live up to the expectation of Freemasonry. So they have created an environment in which we need to squabble. Yeah, either way. We have to have these menial fights amongst each other about whether your tailcoat is most appropriate as opposed to a tuxedo, or is a 4-in-hand really more appropriate than a bow tie in the summer? Like, we have to have these kinds of conversations because we cannot have the overarching and difficult conversation of there are bad Freemasons. There are very, very bad Freemasons. There are men who take an oath on a Saturday and have destroyed it by Sunday morning. There are people who, there are men who say they are working for the betterment of the organization, but are only interested in being named or titled or whatever. And we don't provide, the other group of us don't provide the venue in which we have the conversation of, but why do you feel it's so important to have the bauble or the jewel or the title or the office? We don't have that space. We don't have those conversations. So we have these conversations about Masonic dress code, as if it matters if I commit a crime in a tuxedo or in a tracksuit. So I agree this conversation is fun and it's interesting and it's worth it. But like, back to the point of everything, it's like I find myself in the fundamentalist camp of this because when I'm being a bad Freemason, I think about it in the shower at night and I'm like, God, like the conversation we had off camera of the issue that I'm currently working through. I can get worked up and fired up and blah, 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 and this is why you're wrong and this is why I'm right. But like, I don't have the conversation of like, oh, I hurt someone's feelings and that sucks. So does it matter if I do it in a tracksuit or if I do it in a tuxedo?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. That's my last hot take. I'm Nicky Sampogna. Eric Brannon's your host. Jason's your grandmaster. And this is X-Oriente, your brothers.
I could not have ended it better myself.
Nope.
So we'll end it there. Thanks very much,
Done.
Nicky, for being here. Check out what is it? What do you want to plug? Plug
Check
away.
out Monday Night Raw tomorrow from the Quicken Loans Arena. Monday Night Raw starts 8 o'clock Eastern on the USA Network. And if you favor the color blue instead of the color red, check out Friday Night SmackDown every week on Fox, except this week it's on FS1 because we're being preempted by the World Series, I think. I don't know. Who knows? Doesn't matter. Either way, go do it. It's cool. Friday Night SmackDown on Fox, Monday Night Raw on USA Network, NXT on USA Network, and WWE Backstage on FS1, and of course, who's gonna stop me now? Total Divas every Tuesday on the E Network.
That's impressive that you could do all
Wow.
of that. That is
Wow.
impressive.
One more thing. I just a little bit of housekeeping. So recently I upgraded. This is for anybody who's listening has an iPhone 10 or 10s. I recently upgraded my phone to the 11. I have a whole bunch of cases which are in really good condition that I want to give away. So if you own one of these phones, if you own a 10 or a 10s and you'd like an Apple branded leather case, it's not for the Max. It's only for the regular size. But if you'd like one, all you got to do is pick up the shipping and it's yours. I have several colors. I will be showing pictures of them this coming Wednesday on X-Oriente.com and a blog entry. Check it out if you're interested. That's about it. Thank you guys. And we'll see you hopefully, fingers crossed, knock wood, next week. Same bat time.